So in this video, I'm going to show how to convert the 944 Turbo engine computer, aka the DME, from a 24-pin chip version like this to a 28-pin version like this. Before digging into the DME like this, it's worth getting a ground strap. This is just a simple strap you put on your wrist, and then you clip the alligator clip to a ground point. My cabinets are grounded because they've got electrical outlets in them and stuff, so I just clip this to my cabinets in the garage. But you can use the center screw on an electrical connector, a plumbing fixture, anything that's grounded. If you don't want to do that, you can also just keep yourself discharged all the time by touching those same ground points. If you're wondering why anyone would want to make the conversion from 24 to 28 pins, in my case, it's because I'll be featuring this in an upcoming video. This is the Ostrich chip emulator, and what you do is you plug this into the DME in lieu of an actual EEPROM chip, and then you can program this with a laptop in real time. But as you can see, it doesn't fit the 24-pin DME. It only fits in the 28-pin DME. But it's super easy to convert from this style to this style, so that's what we're going to do. I'll go over all the details in the video, but the 30-second Cliff Note version is that you can add extra pins on the end of this EEPROM socket because the holes are already there for it, and it's all set up to use a 28-pin if you want to. You just have to add a couple of pins here to accommodate the bigger EEPROM. And then after you do that, you have to put a little jumper between these holes here, which is marked B700 on the board, and that tells the CPU to use the bigger chip. That really is all there is to it. Once you get the DME out of the passenger footwell, you need to pry these little tabs back using a screwdriver. These have all already been pried back. The issue, of course, like this one you can see, which is broken off, is that if you keep pulling them back and putting them forward, they're going to eventually snap off. So this one I just left this way, and I end up honestly just putting a piece of duct tape over it to make it work. The question mark is because this one came from eBay, and I don't even know if it actually works. But once you pry those little things off, you can take the cover off. Gently nudge the cover off with this here screwdriver, like that. This little thing is just a protective thing. So once you get the cover off, you need to separate the top board from the bottom board. And to do that, you just have to open up these little posts right here and pull the top board away from the bottom board. This one has already been done to make it easy. It's also kind of latched in up here, so you just push down on these tabs and pull back. Push down on that tab and pull back. And then, if everything went well, you can flip the DME, kind of open it up like a book. Before I take you got to take the chip out, which I'll do in a second. This one appears to be improperly inserted. You can see that pin right there is not in good shape. So maybe that's why someone pulled this DME out of their car and sold it on eBay for cheap. That's a good segue for talking about getting these chips out. You want the chip to come out kind of uniformly straight up. You don't want to bend it this way or bend it that way, because then you'll bend these little pins, and worst case, you'll break a pin off. If it's not broken, you can straighten them out, but they get weaker that way. And in the really worst case, you can break a pin off inside the socket. And that's actually what happened with the eBay one. And if you keep watching, you'll see how I fixed that. But the idea is you just pry a little bit on one side. Make sure you're grounded the whole time. Pry a little bit on the other side. Just make sure it comes up evenly so that there's no bending going on at the pins like that. Just keep going until it And when it frees up, you'll know it just comes right out. The only remaining issue, though, is that these holes are filled with solder. You can get one of these on Amazon or anywhere, eBay, very cheap. It's a solder sucker. What you end up doing is you heat up the solder. It's easier to do on the back side. You got to figure out where you're trying to get them. It's these two. You can see these 4 pins have solder but no pins sticking out of them. So you heat that solder up and then click this thing and it just sucks everything up. Now, because I'm kind of an electronics guy, I've got this instead, which is a desoldering gun. It heats it up, heats up the solder, and also sucks out the solder at the same time. I think that's it. The jumper pins are also filled with solder, so we have to get that out. In this case, I believe it's that one and that one. I'll just check one more time. Yep, those are the ones. So let's see if I can do it with a solder sucker. You melt the solder, you suck the solder out. Sometimes it takes a couple tries. This is where you are at risk of overheating the copper pads and they'll come off the circuit board. So if it doesn't work the first time, don't go right back at it. Let it cool off just a little bit. That one, I think, is now open. You can see it's open. This one, oh, that one's open too. So we're done with that, proving the solder sucker works. Now, some people will like break apart an old socket and take those little metal pins and put them in to the holes. What I like to do instead is take a new socket like this. They're, 50 cents each or something. And then I just take clippers and clip off, usually start with 3 so that I can trim it to size. And then you have just a little section of the socket that you can put into these holes. And now what we do is get our little jumper wire all ready to go. Go about like that. And that should line up. Since all the components are on this side, I'll put it in through this side. Doesn't really matter. But there, we got it through. Bend the leads on the other side so it doesn't fall out. Then, once again, back to the soldering iron. Solder that one. Solder that one. Clip off the extra leads. So ordinarily at this point you could just solder in that little extension piece that we put on the EEPROM socket and you'd be all done with this and you'd have a 28-pin DME. There was a complication with this one. I finally figured out why it was being sold cheap on eBay. If you look really closely, this pin in there broke off inside the socket. So every time I try to put a chip in there, that pin buckles up and bends up. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get that thing out of there or replace it. So stay tuned. Since I have the desoldering station, I went ahead and just took the whole EEPROM socket out and replaced it with a brand new 28-pin socket. I don't necessarily recommend that if you don't have to do it because you put the board at risk of overheating and pulling up copper pads and all. But in this case, it had to be done, and I had the equipment to do it. So that's what I did, and I'm happy to report that I put it in the car, and it does work now. So I resurrected a bad DME from eBay.